So, and Mr. Chair, while she's pulling up the presentation, I'll just give a little background. I think most of you are here at the May meeting where a group from the Hawes Trail Alliance came to the commission and made a request to add a new trail within Usery Mountain Regional Park, a north-south sort of a connector trail that would get folks to the Usery or to the Hawes Trail system, which is just across the road and a little northwest, I guess, from Usery Mountain Regional Park. The Hawes Trail Alliance has done phenomenal work with the U.S. Forest Service up in that area, not only developing trails, but starting from square one with the Forest Service to make sure a trails plan was done for that area, making sure all the trails, went through the Forest Service system of checks and balances and approvals that they needed to go through. And they've done a great job with that, and then they've continued on to develop additional trails. So what they were looking for in Usery Park was the neighborhoods that are to the south of Usery Park. There are several entrances there, and there were a number of mountain bikers primarily that were using those trails, and they wanted to go up through the park and connect into the Hawes Trail system. And there really wasn't a good opportunity to do that other than using Usery Mountain Road to do that. So they were proposing a trail. They came to you. I believe Tommy Stapley did a presentation, and we said then that we would take a look at that and report back to you and talk about progress. We held several meetings with what we would call the stakeholders in the region. Again, that property was deeded to us from the Bureau of Land Management, so they hold some sort of rights over that property. We wanted to make sure they were comfortable with the new trail. Tonto National Forest, because this trail would connect into an approved trail on the Tonto National Forest that borders the park. We met with Maricopa County Department of Transportation because they manage the roadway system in our park. So we wanted to make sure that as we were looking at how this new trail would interact with the roadway system, that we consulted with them. Flood Control District, because they have a flood structure in the south part of Usery Park. And then also we had discussions with the city of Mesa to make sure that because this is adjoining the city of Mesa, we want to make sure that they were in the loop. Some of the things, go ahead to the next slide, Donna. So I've gone over those first three bullets with you. Some of the issues that were discussed with the stakeholders during the discussion, I think we had all of the stakeholders on one meeting with the exception of Tonto National Forest. They were in fire season, so we had a separate meeting with the forest supervisor, or not forest supervisor, the district ranger from the Tonto, but the rest of the folks were all in one meeting. A couple of things that were brought up was the proposed route from by the Hawes group came directly into the nature center. There was concern about congestion in that area, and that was one of the concerns actually that Hawes had with the existing trails in the park was congestion. So limited parking availability and putting that trail right into an area where other trails are going out of, and so that was a minor concern. Again, I mentioned limited parking within that area, and certainly taking the Hawes folks at their word. They said, there really wouldn't be a lot of parking issues because most of these people are coming up from the neighborhood, so they're not parking. But we also realize as we add new trails, more people come to use them. Not just one specific user group. So we may have hikers that'll want to use this trail as well. And then the main concern we got from the Maricopa County Department of Transportation was the location of this road crossing right before the nature center, right after folks would turn into the park. And so they had concerns that 100% of the people coming to the park are going to go right through that area where the trail would cross the road. And they suggested that we find another location that we might be able to better control traffic, or traffic would be minimized to some extent. So we took that information. Oh, we also met with the archery group because they have a vested interest in that area where the trail would go. Not a lot of concerns from them, so we were happy to hear that, and I don't think we'll have any issues wherever we put the trail in that area. Next slide, Donna. So I don't know, maybe Donna, if you could blow this up so we could see the map a little bit better. Yeah, that's good right there. So if you see right where it almost says Usery Pass, there's a little dot right at the top of the park there. That's where the trail comes in. Thank you, Donna. That's where the trail comes in from the Tonto National Forest. And so the Hawes Alliance was recommending that that trail come down to that next dot. If you can put your hand around that, Donna, yes. And then they were proposing that trail continue on along that blue line, coming down into the nature center area. And then their recommendation, then they would use the Lost Sheep Trail to continue south through the park. After some discussions with staff, trails crew, etc., we came to a recommended route, again using the same route where the Tonto National Forest and the initial discussion from the Hawes group, but then branching off and going to the right and going down using just a small piece of Pass Mountain Trail. One of the things we wanted to make sure of, because we heard the Hawes Alliance folks say that the Pass Mountain Trail is the busiest trail in the park. What I would say to that, actually the Wind Cave Trail is, we know from counts that the Wind Cave Trail is the busiest trail in the park. But that to get to the Wind Cave Trail, you need to use a portion of the Pass Mountain Trail. So we wanted to make sure that if we did use a portion of the Pass Mountain Trail, we got this connector trail off of that before it hit the Wind Cave Trail exit. So we've done that, brought that down to where it comes then to group picnic area C and D. And that is a relatively low utilized picnic area within the park, but a relatively large parking lot. So we feel like that as new people start to use the park and start to use the trails, this just encourages people to spread out a little bit more. From there, it would go down. From there, so then it goes to a point of crossing the road. And here, what you can see is we have taken all the traffic from the nature center off the road by that point. We have taken people from the campground off the road by that point, and we have taken people from the archery range off the road. So the only users left, which still is fairly significant, would be people using the trails to the area around where it says Blevins and the Wind Cave. But again, this would further spread out some of that Wind Cave parking use as well, which is again another good thing for the park. And then we would continue down south to connections to other trails within the park system, which is what those north and south community trail users are using already to get up at least to the nature center point. So if you can go to the next slide, Donna. So I've talked through most of this using the same connection point at the northwest corner of the park. So that would allow that U.S. Forest Service connector trail that has already been approved by the Forest Service. We can continue to use that. So no additional NEPA, Environmental Policy Act discussions would have to be held. It does share a portion of 0.4 miles of the Pass Mountain Trail, but that is after the Wind Cave junction of that trail. So we think that, again, it's a busy piece, but certainly not as busy as it is from the Wind Cave junction down south to the parking lot. It also adds additional parking and restroom facilities. So as new users start to use this area, there are restroom facilities, there are already facilities there. We would also develop a connector trail to Blevins near the Maricopa Trail, and it again provides that clean north-south route. Next slide, Donna. So the next phase for us would be concept execution. We would go out and flag this route. Then we would work with the Hawes Trail Alliance to actually go out on site, show them where we propose putting the trail, and listen to any concerns that they may have about, can we put it a little further south? Maybe we cut out a tenth of a mile of that Usery Pass trail, but we would work with them. They had promised to do the cultural resource survey, so we would ask them to do that. If there's a concern, because this probably adds another 3 or 4 tenths of a mile to the trail, if there are funding concerns with that, we'll work with them and we can add funding if needed. We would then go through and actually rough cut the trail in, and then work with the Hawes Trail Alliance to do the finish work on the trail and make it smooth and in good condition. And then the Blevins Trail to Area C and D, we would go ahead and construct that because the Hawes Trail group had not had discussions about doing that, so we wouldn't expect them. Certainly, if they want to help with the finish work on that trail, we would be more than happy to take their assistance. But we would certainly do that on our own. So, and I think, are there any more slides, Donna? Questions?